Hello humanoids, welcome to Halfling Hobbies. I'm Halfling Hannah, and there's a lot of people who have talked about the process of becoming a Lich. At this point, pretty much everyone knows about it, but did you know that there are consequences if you fail? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I tried to become a Lich, and this happened. Here we go. So oftentimes, wizards who are exceptionally gifted and powerful want to continue on with their studies long after the normal life would end, which makes undeath really attractive. And so they start studying in order to become a Lich. But the process to become a Lich is a very carefully guarded secret, and very few actually know how. In fact, most often, a wizard's going to have to make a deal with someone like the Demon Prince of Undeath, ORCUS himself, which is a dangerous thing and can come with some consequences. So let's look at what happens if you try to become a Lich and you fail. The first one comes from physical and magical weakness. So in order to become a Lich, you have to force your soul into a phylactery so that it remains in the material plane forever, right? But if you are not physically or magically strong enough to force your soul into the phylactery, then your soul escapes and binds itself to the closest source of evil thought. And this becomes a bone claw, a very, very nasty beastie that just enjoys murdering and slicing people apart and torturing them. And it binds itself as a servant to the nearest source of evil thought within a couple of miles. This can be anyone, literally anyone, just as long as they have a very strong evil intent and hatred. And most of the time, the person doesn't even know that they have a bone claw bound into their service. And bone claws retain some of the cool features of being a Lich. First of all, they cannot die as long as their master is alive and still evil. The only way to kill them is to either kill the master or convert them to be good. Bone claws are one of my favorite monsters ever, because just side quests just ooze out of bone claws, and it's amazing. So bone claw, first thing that can happen to a Lich when the lichdom doesn't quite work out. Second thing that can happen is considerably worse, and it's necro-ichor. Necro-ichor is just like the goo of the person that is sentient. It actually keeps its consciousness. Unlike the bone claw that only keeps the evil emotions, the necro-ichor actually keeps its consciousness and can plan out these massive schemes, but it doesn't have a body to actually make that happen. So what it does is it crawls into people and uses their own blood in order to kind of blood wash them. Brainwash them, however you want to say that, and make them its servant. And when it leaves that person, it leaves behind a trace of itself. So if the necro-ichor is ever destroyed, it can simply regenerate itself from the blood of any one of its victims, which is horribly creepy. A lot of paladin orders devote themselves to finding these things and sealing them away, but it's only a matter of time to a necro-ichor because they retain that lichdom immortality, just they don't keep a lot of their powers and their body from it. So that sucks. Could you imagine being stuck in a jar? Just forever. Stuck in a jar. Ugh. The third thing that can happen is if you become a Lich, yay, you did it, you have to keep feeding your phylactery souls, or you turn into a demi-Lich. This is what happens when a Lich doesn't feed its phylactery. All of its bones melt away and turn into ash, and all you have left is this skull that retains just a fragment of power and very little of the consciousness of the original wizard. It's simply when something comes into its lair, screams, and you can die from the scream, but that's about it. And as long as it's left alone, it's just going to sit there and not do anything, which is a really sad way to end your lichdom, to become a demi-lich. So those are the only 3 direct monsters that result from failing to become a Lich. However, we do have some fun alternative options. These are some creative options that you can simply homebrew and use in your campaign if a wizard happens to fail to become a Lich. My first and one of my favorites is a Revenant, because often you have like the adventuring party, right? They figure out that someone's looking to become a Lich, and so they want to stop them. They want to thwart their plans. Well, if they thwart their plans and the wizard dies in the process of becoming a Lich and doesn't become a Lich because of the adventuring party, they might become a Revenant. Revenants are bent on revenge, and they come back in like the zombie-like form that is undead. They don't have to rest, they don't have to breathe or eat or anything like that, and they are just seeking revenge. In this case, it would be on the party that prevented them from becoming a Lich. Revenants have 1 year to exact their revenge, which could make a really cool side plot in any campaign, with this like wizard just following relentlessly the party and looking for an opportunity to kill them. I really like that. Number 2, a Wraith. So sometimes when, you're trying to become a Lich and you have to like sacrifice souls in order to do that, you might become a little twisted. You might become a little dark. And perhaps you go a little too dark and your soul actually implodes in on itself and you become a Wraith. Instead of becoming a Lich, perhaps the wizard becomes a Wraith and begins to raise an army of undead. Finally, because so many wizards end up making a deal with ORCUS in order to get the secret to immortality, why not have ORCUS betray them every once in a while? I mean, why not? He's a chaotic, evil dude. If ORCUS thinks that the wizard is too weak to actually become a Lich, it might be more useful to him to turn them into a Bodak. A Bodak is basically the eyes and ears of ORCUS and can turn other people into Bodaks as well, spreading this kind of disease of undeath in the world around. Usually this only happens through a ritual to truly devoted acolytes of ORCUS, but perhaps ORCUS gives the secret of this to a wizard, telling them that it is lichdom when really it's going to turn them into this hideous undead monster. If you would like even more creative options for what happens if a lichdom fails, then make sure you go over to Halfling Hobbies. I've got an article over there that would be super helpful. Becoming a Lich is unsurprisingly very difficult, and when you're dealing with magic at this level, there's bound to be some consequences, and all of those consequences could be quite fun to include in your campaign. So I certainly hope that this gave you some ideas and that it gives your game advantage. And until next time, my friends, Halfling Hannah here, signing out. A big thank you to all of my amazing patrons. It's been so much fun to get to know every one of you, and I am so grateful that you've chosen to partner with Halfling Hobbies during this time. You guys are amazing, and I couldn't do it without you. If you would like some really cool DM resources and to join an amazing community, consider going over to Patreon. Bye!